Welcome back to the Rundown Lab, where we break down and fact check the biggest health podcasts. We know your time is valuable, but when you can, we always recommend catching the full episode. Links are in the description. What if the real reason you feel down during winter has less to do with vitamin D supplements and more to do with something far more fundamental about how sunlight interacts with your entire body? That's the provocative idea explored in a recent episode that challenges conventional thinking about seasonal mood changes. In this episode, the host argues that while vitamin D matters, we're missing the bigger picture by focusing solely on supplements. Instead, he makes the case that sunlight affects our genes, our gut bacteria, our mitochondria, and our brain's master clock in ways that go far beyond just one vitamin. It's an interesting perspective, so let's dig into what the science actually says. Let's start with what the episode gets right, and there's quite a bit here. The host correctly points out that vitamin D is technically a hormone, not a vitamin, and this is accurate. Endocrinologists classify it as a secosteroid hormone because your body synthesizes it and it acts through nuclear receptors to regulate gene expression. The claim that it influences over 2,000 genes is on the higher end of estimates, but genomic studies have identified anywhere from 200 to nearly 2,800 vitamin D responsive genes, depending on the tissue type. So this is within the scientific range. The circadian rhythm science is solid as well. The host accurately explains that we have a master clock in our brains, that's the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and that it's primarily controlled by light. He's also correct that darkness stimulates melatonin production from the pineal gland. This is well-established physiology. Particularly impressive is the discussion of mitochondrial melatonin, a topic many people haven't heard of. Research has indeed established that melatonin is produced in the mitochondria of many cell types, completely independent of the pineal gland, where it acts as a powerful antioxidant. The host's advice about morning light exposure for 15 to 30 minutes and dimming lights 90 minutes before bed aligns well with sleep research and light therapy protocols. And the connection between brain inflammation and mood is a major area of psychiatric research with solid evidence behind it. Now, here's where things get more complicated and require some important clarifications. When discussing how sunlight affects 2,000 genes, there's some conflation happening. That figure specifically refers to genes regulated by vitamin D receptors, not sunlight directly. Sunlight does have some vitamin D independent effects, like triggering nitric oxide release, but the genomic effects are primarily working through the vitamin D pathway. The claim that infrared light from the sun is the main way we get mitochondrial melatonin is getting ahead of the science. Some researchers have proposed this hypothesis, and it's an active area of investigation, but it's not yet established as the primary mechanism. What we know more confidently is that mitochondria can synthesize melatonin locally from tryptophan through their own enzymatic pathways. Similarly, the statement that infrared light goes right through your clothes is an oversimplification. Near-infrared light can penetrate some fabrics, particularly thin, light-colored materials, but dark or thick fabrics block most of it. The penetration varies considerably. The gut microbiome discussion also needs some nuance. The host states that most serotonin is made by your microbes. What's actually happening is that about 90 to 95% of your body's serotonin is indeed in the gut, but it's produced by your own cells, called enterochromaffin cells, not by the bacteria themselves. Your gut microbes do influence this process significantly through the metabolites they produce, but the serotonin itself comes from your cells. And when discussing how refined sugar feeds pathogens in your gut, that's a bit dramatic. High sugar intake can promote unfavorable shifts in your microbiome composition, but calling these bacteria pathogens overstates the case. Most aren't true disease-causing organisms. They're just less beneficial species. Now, there's one claim that really needs addressing. The host states that people take antidepressants to fix serotonin problems, but we just found out there's no proof of that, and they actually make things worse. This significantly misrepresents the science. He's likely referencing a 2022 review that questioned whether low serotonin directly causes depression. But here's the crucial point. That review did not find that antidepressants don't work. Clinical trials consistently show antidepressants have modest efficacy for moderate to severe depression. The mechanism might be more complex than simple serotonin correction, but that's different from saying they make things worse. That categorical claim isn't supported by the bulk of evidence. So what's the bottom line? This episode gets the big picture largely right. Sunlight affects our health through multiple pathways beyond just vitamin D. Morning light exposure benefits mood and sleep. Our gut bacteria influence our brain, and our circadian rhythms matter enormously. These core messages have substantial scientific support. Where it falls short is in some mechanistic details, and particularly in the characterization of antidepressants. If you're considering changes to any treatment, that's a conversation for your healthcare provider, not a decision to make based on a single podcast claim. But the broader message about getting outside, getting morning light, and supporting your circadian rhythms, that's advice with good science behind it.